Amara was the brightest star in her family. She was the only daughter in a household of 6 children, and her parents adored her. Her father, who called her his jewel, gave her anything she wanted, and her mother treated her like a treasure. Even her 5 brothers protected her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. Growing up, Amara didn't have to worry about anything. She didn't cook, didn't clean, and never had to do any hard work. Her family had helpers who did all the chores. Her hands were always soft, unscarred by housework. She was treated like a princess, and she loved it, but beneath all the love and pampering, there was something her parents worried about. They knew Amara wasn't learning the basic skills she would need to take care of herself. They knew the world outside wouldn't spoil her like they had. But they didn't want to make her unhappy, so they never pushed her to change. Then one day, everything changed. Amara met Obi. He was tall, with a charming smile and a voice that always made people listen. Obi was kind and funny, and when he looked at Amara, it felt like she was the only girl in the world. Before long, they fell in love. Obi admired Amara's warmth, and she loved how he always made her laugh. It wasn't long before Obi proposed, and Amara, filled with joy, said yes. Their wedding was the talk of the village. People came from near and far to witness the celebration. The drums beat loud, and the dancers filled the air with joy. Amara looked beautiful in her wedding dress, and Obi couldn't take his eyes off her. It was a perfect day, and Amara felt like her life was a fairy tale. But once the wedding was over and they began their life together, things slowly began to change. At first, Obi didn't mind doing most of the chores. He would cook, clean, and make sure the house was tidy. He loved Amara deeply and believed that in time, she would start learning how to help around the house. But as weeks turned into months, nothing changed. Every day, Obi would return home from work tired, only to find that the house was still a mess. The dishes piled up, the floor remained dirty, and Amara continued to live like she always had, relaxed, pampered, and carefree. She would spend her days chatting with friends, watching shows, and taking long naps, never noticing how much Obi was doing. One evening, Obi came home after a long, exhausting day. He asked Amara to do something simple, just reheat the soup she had made the night before. It was an easy task, but Amara didn't take it seriously. She agreed but then forgot all about it. The soup sat in the kitchen until it went bad. When Amara finally remembered, she panicked. She didn't want Obi to be upset, so she tried to fix it. She had heard somewhere that adding soda could sometimes improve the taste of burnt food. Without thinking, she grabbed a bottle of Pepsi and poured it into the soup, hoping for a miracle. When Obi sat down to eat, he took one bite and stopped. The sweet, burnt taste filled his mouth, and for the first time, he felt a wave of frustration. He had been patient for so long, but now it was clear to him that something had to change. Instead of arguing, Obi decided to take action. The next day, he hired a young cook named Ada to help in the house. Ada was known in the village for her cooking skills. She was smart, hardworking, and her meals were always delicious. Obi hoped that with Ada's help, their household would run smoothly again. When Ada arrived, she quickly became a key part of the house. Her cooking was fantastic, and Obi couldn't help but praise her food. Amara, however, felt a sharp sting of jealousy. She noticed how Obi admired Ada's skills, and it made her feel small. Each time Obi complimented Ada, Amara felt like she was failing as a wife. Amara had never had to compete with anyone before. She had always been the one people admired and adored. But now, Obi was impressed with someone else, and that made Amara realize something she had never admitted to herself. She wanted to be more than just the pampered girl in the house. She wanted Obi to be proud of her. One day, After watching Obi enjoy another one of Ada's meals, Amara decided she couldn't stand by and watch anymore. She made up her mind to learn how to cook. She didn't want to be seen as the girl who couldn't do anything. At first, it didn't go well. Amara was used to having everything done for her, and she quickly realized that cooking was much harder than she thought. The first time she tried to make stew, it turned out too salty. When she tried making rice, it burned to the bottom of the pot. There were times when she thought about giving up, but the thought of Obi being impressed with someone else's food kept her going. Ada noticed Amara's struggle and, surprisingly, offered to help her. "You can't learn everything in one day," Ada said kindly. "It takes time, but you'll get better." Amara was hesitant at first, but she accepted Ada's offer. Every evening, after Obi went to bed, Ada would stay in the kitchen with Amara and teach her little tricks: how to cut vegetables, how to season meat, how to balance the heat on the stove. Slowly, Amara began to improve. One day, after weeks of practicing in secret, Amara decided it was time to show Obi what she had learned. She woke up early and prepared his favorite dish, jollof rice with grilled chicken. She put all her heart into making sure everything was perfect. When Obi came home that evening, he was greeted by the smell of freshly cooked food. His eyes widened in surprise when he saw the table set with a delicious-looking meal. "You made this?" Obi asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Amara nodded, her heart racing with nerves. She watched as Obi took a bite. For a moment, he said nothing, and Amara held her breath. "This is really good," Obi finally said, smiling with pride. "You did amazing." Amara's chest filled with warmth. For the first time, she felt like she had earned Obi's admiration in a way that mattered. She wasn't just the pampered girl he had married, she was becoming his partner, someone he could rely on. From that day on, Amara threw herself into learning more about cooking and managing the house. She no longer waited for others to do the work for her. Ada continued to guide her, but now Amara was the one in charge of the kitchen. Obi noticed the change and felt proud of her, and their relationship began to grow stronger. As Amara's confidence grew, she thanked Ada for all her help. Obi, too, appreciated Ada's kindness, but it was clear that the time had come for Amara to take full control of their home. "You've been a great help, Ada," Obi said one evening. "But I think Amara is ready now." Ada smiled, proud of how far Amara had come. "She's more than ready," Ada replied. "You two are going to be just fine." With Ada gone, Amara and Obi felt a new sense of unity. They were finally working together as equals, supporting each other in ways they hadn't before. But while things seemed perfect, they both knew life would always throw new challenges their way. Amara had come far, but the road ahead was long, and there were still many lessons to learn. However, with Obi by her side, she knew they could face whatever came next. Amara felt proud of her progress. The kitchen was now her domain, and Obi couldn't stop telling her how much he appreciated her hard work. They spent more time together, talking about their dreams and plans for the future. For the first time since they got married, Amara felt truly happy. But deep inside, she knew that something else was brewing. Life was good, but it wasn't as simple as she had imagined. One evening, as they sat down for dinner, Obi had something on his mind. He hesitated before speaking, but eventually, he looked up at Amara, his expression serious. "Amara, there's something I've been thinking about for a while now," he began, his voice gentle but firm. "We've been married for almost a year. And I think it's time we started talking about having children." Amara's heart skipped a beat. Children. The word echoed in her mind, and for a moment, she didn't know how to feel. She had always known that one day they would start a family, but now that the moment was here, she wasn't sure she was ready. I I don't know, Obi, she said quietly, looking down at her plate. I'm just getting used to being a good wife. What if I'm not ready to be a mother? Obi reached out and took her hand. I understand, he said softly. We don't have to rush into anything. But I want us to start thinking about it. We can take our time, but we should plan for our future. Amara nodded, her mind spinning. She wasn't sure why the idea of children made her so nervous. Maybe it was because she was still learning how to manage the house, or maybe it was because she didn't feel ready to take on the responsibility of raising a child. Either way, the conversation stayed with her, making her wonder if she could handle it. The next few weeks passed quietly, but the thought of having children never left Amara's mind. One day, she went to visit her mother, hoping for some advice. Her mother, a wise and gentle woman, listened carefully as Amara shared her fears. Mother, I don't know if I'm ready, Amara confessed, her voice filled with uncertainty. What if I fail? What if I'm not a good mother? Her mother smiled warmly and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Amara, no one is ever truly ready for motherhood, she said softly. It's something you learn as you go, just like everything else in life. You've already shown that you can grow and change. You became a wonderful wife because you worked hard and didn't give up. Being a mother is the same. It's not about being perfect, it's about love and patience. Amara thought about her mother's words on the way home. Maybe she was right. She had grown so much since marrying Obi. She had learned how to cook, how to manage the house, and most importantly, how to be a better partner. Maybe she could learn to be a mother too, in time. Later that evening, Amara decided to share her thoughts with Obi. Obi, she began, sitting beside him. I've been thinking about what you said. About children. I'm still scared, but maybe we can start thinking about it more seriously. I want to be the best mother I can be, but I'll need your support. Obi smiled and pulled her close. You'll never have to do it alone, he said softly. We'll figure it out together, one step at a time. Their conversation marked a new chapter in their lives. Amara and Obi began to plan for the future, talking about the kind of family they wanted to build. They spoke about the names they would give their children, the values they wanted to teach them, and the home they would create for them. But life, as always, had its own plans. Just as they were beginning to settle into the idea of starting a family, Obi came home one evening with unexpected news. Amara, he said, his face serious. I've been offered a job in another city. It's a great opportunity, but it would mean moving far away from the village. Amara's heart sank. Leaving the village? The place where she had grown up, where her family lived, where she felt safe. The thought of starting over in a new place was terrifying. She had just found her rhythm here, and now everything could change again. How far away is it? Amara asked, trying to keep her voice steady. About a day's journey, Obi replied, watching her closely. It's a good position, with better pay. But I know it's a big decision, and I won't take it if you're not comfortable. Amara felt torn. On one hand, she didn't want to leave everything she knew behind. But on the other hand, she wanted to support Obi and be by his side wherever life took them. She knew this was important for their future. I don't know, Obi, she said slowly. This village is my home. But I also know that we need to think about what's best for us. Let me think about it. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with possibilities. What if they moved, and things didn't work out? What if she couldn't adjust to the new life? What if she missed her family too much? The questions buzzed in her head, making her anxious, but deep down, she also knew that she had changed before, and she could change again. She had faced challenges she never thought she could handle. And each time, she had grown stronger. This was just another test, another step in her journey with Obi. The next morning, Amara made her decision. "Obi," she said, sitting across from him at the breakfast table. "Let's do it. Let's move to the city. I'm scared, but I trust that we'll figure it out together. We've done it before, and we can do it again." Obi smiled, relief washing over him. He reached out and held her hand. "Thank you, Amara," he said, his voice full of gratitude. "I promise, we'll make this work." With that decision made, Amara and Obi prepared for the next chapter in their lives. Moving to a new city was going to be a challenge, but they were ready to face it together. Amara didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: she had grown into a stronger woman, and with Obi by her side, she could handle whatever came next. As the days passed, Amara and Obi prepared for their big move to the city. The village that had been their home for so long felt bittersweet as they said their goodbyes to family and friends. Amara's heart was heavy, but she also felt a spark of excitement. This new chapter would bring fresh opportunities and challenges, but she knew she was ready to face them with Obi by her side. The day they arrived in the city, everything felt different: bustling streets, tall buildings, and people moving quickly all around them. It was overwhelming at first, but Amara held Obi's hand tightly, finding comfort in their togetherness. Their new home was smaller than the one in the village, but it had a cozy warmth. Obi made sure that they turned it into their own space, filled with love and laughter. Every evening, they would sit together on their little balcony, watching the sun set over the city skyline, sharing stories of their day. As time passed, Amara grew more comfortable in the city. She learned the ins and outs of their neighborhood, found a local market where she could buy fresh ingredients, and even made new friends. Obi thrived at his new job, and Amara saw how happy he was with the opportunities that the city brought. They were building a life together, one that was different from what they had imagined but still filled with love. One afternoon, as they sat together on the balcony, Obi turned to Amara with a smile on his face. "I have something to tell you," he said, his voice full of excitement. "I got promoted today." Amara's face lit up with joy. "That's amazing, Obi," she exclaimed, wrapping her arms around him. Obi held her close, but then his expression softened. "There's something else," he added, his voice quieter but full of emotion. "I know we've been talking about starting a family, and I think now is the right time. I'm ready if you are." Amara felt her heart swell with happiness. Over the past year, she had grown so much, learning to take care of her home, learning to support Obi, and most importantly, learning to trust herself. She knew that they were ready to take the next step in their journey. "I'm ready too, Obi," she said softly, her voice filled with certainty. "Let's start our family." A few months later, the news they had been waiting for arrived. Amara was pregnant. When she told Obi, his face lit up with a mix of shock, joy, and overwhelming love. They embraced, both of them realizing that their love had grown beyond anything they had ever imagined. As the months went by, Amara prepared for the arrival of their child. The city no longer felt strange to her; it had become home, and she knew it would be the perfect place to raise their family. Obi, ever the supportive husband, was by her side through it all, from doctor's visits to late-night talks about baby names and what kind of parents they wanted to be. Finally, on a beautiful, sunny morning, their baby was born, a healthy, beautiful baby girl. They named her Chica, which meant God is supreme. As they held their daughter for the first time, both Amara and Obi felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Their journey had been filled with ups and downs, but now, looking into their daughter's eyes, they knew that everything had been worth it. Their home was filled with love and laughter, and the challenges of the past seemed like distant memories. Amara had grown from the pampered girl she once was into a strong, capable woman and mother. She had found her place, not just in the kitchen or the home, but in her heart and in Obi's life. Years passed, and their family grew. Amara and Obi had more children, each bringing more joy into their lives. Their home was never quiet, always filled with the sounds of little feet running around, laughter echoing through the halls, and the warmth of family. Through it all, Amara and Obi remained each other's best friends and partners. They supported one another, loved one another, and faced every challenge with the same determination that had brought them together in the first place. As they sat on their balcony one evening, watching the sunset just as they had when they first moved to the city, Obi turned to Amara with a smile. "We've built something beautiful together," he said softly, his voice filled with pride. Amara smiled back, her heart full. "Yes, we have," she replied, squeezing his hand. "And we'll keep building, no matter what comes next." And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the city, Amara and Obi knew that their love, tested, tried, and true, would carry them through whatever the future held. Together, they had found their way, and together, they would continue to build a life filled with love, happiness, and the joy of family. Their story was just beginning, and it was more beautiful than they could have ever imagined.
Thank you guys for watching.